Can you hear me back there? What? Oh, that's my biggest fan there, right there. I love Carlos. He gives me really intimate, long hugs, and he says very nice things about me. I really appreciate it. But thank you all for making the trip. I know Riverhead isn't really close to anywhere, so I appreciate you spending your Tuesday evening with me, so that I get an opportunity to share what my passion is, and do it with a great childhood friend. So welcome to How to Build Your Dream Team. What we're going to talk about tonight is really, as you see on the top of that beautiful tablecloth, powers in the network. So one thing I learned really hard is that you can't do it all yourself. And boy, do I try. And that's why I'm bald. So the better I learn to work with, to reach out to collaborate with my network, the more time I have, the more money I make, and the only thing is my hair doesn't come back. Like that's gone. I lost that for a lifetime. So I'll just go over who am I. So I'm Josh Wally Douglas. I'm a real estate associate broker and branch manager for the Babylon branch. Woo! Greatest branch on the island. And so why do I run this group? So really this group, as we grow, and this is like the third meeting, but we are out here to educate the community. Our long-term goal is to create 100,000 millionaires across the country. Real estate is the best vehicle for that. Grid is 23 chapters large, primarily on the East Coast. We did just launch, I think, in Vegas as well. So we're spreading across the country. We intend to be on every single continent within the next 20 years. How can you connect with us? We can go to www.gridlongisland.com. You can check us out on Meetup. You can call us, text, DM. I'm a realtor, so my information is everywhere. Sean, would you tell a little bit about yourself?
Sure. Sean Morrison. I own Benchmark Construction Management. Build custom homes, do flips, renovations, building my investment portfolio. And the reason I'm partners with Josh in this group is, again, to meet new people, find new partners, hear different ways that people are investing. Spoke to a couple different people even just today, and this guy's thinking about doing some elder care. She's investing in Florida, multifamilies, and it just gives you more opportunity and just know how other people are doing it to try to partner with them or do it for yourself and understand how people are doing it.
Sure. So what we would love, I think, to really hammer home the power of the network is we'd like to just go around super quick. For those that is your second meeting, I hope you practiced your elevator pitch. If it's your first one, what I would really love to just tell everybody your name, what you do, or where you are in your investing journey.
Oh, great. I had to start?
Yes, you're right in front.
Christopher Kojak, Douglas Allen Realtor, Massapequa, and beginning my journey, actually. So I've got a call here. That's it. Been doing real estate for 6 years.
Perfect.
Chris Hubbard, Remax Reliance. I was a broker owner of a franchise for many years in East Meadow. Just kind of got out of the franchise broker role and got a little more into investing, mostly single family homes, some multifamily, some property management. And my newest thing was residential assisted living. So just kind of looking into that, whether it's out of state or in New York, exploring that right now.
Perfect.
My name's Valerie White.
Speak up for the cheap seats.
My name's Valerie White. I've been in real estate 21 years.
Woo!
Investing for 22.
You.
I have a lot of multifamilies, and I was looking for more.
She's humble as shit. She's a powerhouse, but she won't tell you. It's you. Good sir. Yeah. Tell me a little about
My name
yourself.
is Marcus McLeod. I am the newest agent at Douglas Elliman of Smithtown. I'm at the beginning of I'm at the very beginning of my investment journey.
Sure.
I would like to say I'm moving past the dream phase, and I came here to learn how to do it the right way.
Yeah, bud. Love it.
So I appreciate you having me here.
Appreciate you coming. Young lady. You!
Douglas Salmon. I'm just here to learn more about investing. So it's definitely a long-term goal of mine.
Perfect. Love it. Young lady.
My name is Jordan Cordonero, also a member of the Salinas team over at Smithtown's Douglas Salmon office.
You!
Been in real estate for almost a year now.
Nice.
And I look forward to learning more about investing.
Perfect.
My name is Keisha Valerian. I'm with Keller Williams Cornerstone in Woodbury, and I am just getting real estate information on
Yeah.
where to start.
Love it.
My
Perfect.
name is Margarita Pizzi. I'm also with Keller Williams.
Thank you.
Myself,
Yeah.
but I work mostly in Sussex. I prefer to say. However, I have clients in different areas also, as well as work. And also and I am working with a couple of investors.
Yeah.
So I would like to learn more, and I also wanted to do short-term rentals.
Awesome.
Learn more from them.
Welcome. Thank you.
My
You,
name is
sir.
Carlos Salinas, team leader of the Salinas team at
You!
Douglas Elliman Smith. I am here because Josh Wally forced my hand.
Yes.
And I had no choice. I'm being held hostage, and I wanted to know how to get out of here. So, no, but Josh Wally is an amazing individual, and like I said in my first meeting here, I will move heaven and earth to support him. And I am also at the beginning phases of learning more of what this industry has to offer. So thank you.
Appreciate you. Thank you so much. Thank you for coming.
Dan Ashiola, Insula Capital. I am your lone ninja.
Lone Ninja. Well put.
So Insula sponsors this group and helps us support, the events and stuff. So thank you, Dan, and thank you, Insula.
Yeah, absolutely.
Emily.
Emily LaRocca. I'm a broker with Douglas Salmon in Babylon and Ocean Beach. My family owns a few short-term vacation rentals on Fire Island that I manage, and I do work with a lot of investors doing flips.
Love it. Yes, please.
Maureen, I work with Liz as operations manager, and we just went to Douglas Elliman Babylon.
Yeah. You.
To learn more about investing,
Love it.
make money.
In the back.
Susan Lombardi, Douglas Elliman in Babylon.
You.
Looking to learn more about investing. I deal with a lot of investors. I do a lot of short sales. So if anybody has short sales, I'm your girl.
So good.
And I'm excited to be here.
Perfect.
My name's Patrick. I'm Maureen's husband, and looking to learn about investing in real estate.
I'm Liz Price. I just joined John. Only a week and a half, and I'm so thrilled. Best decision ever.
Yeah.
Everybody in the office is amazing, and I want to learn about investing and more so leveraging properties that I already have to then invest some more.
Love it. Love the way you're thinking.
I'm
Perfect.
Frank Mayo, also from Babylon, Douglas Elliman.
You.
And I just became a little bit more than part-time. I'm now three-quarter time. So I will do some more real estate and learn how to invest.
Love it. Love it. Love it. Yes.
Hi, I'm Yvonne Sherlock. It's my second meeting. I'm just looking, I had my real estate license like 20, 30-ish years ago. And I'm looking to get back into the investment side of it, so I'm just starting to dabble, put my feet in the water, looking at wholesaling deals and doing flips.
Perfect.
I'm Robert Maricini. I'm her better half, and I'll be honest. I'm not a real estate agent. I never liked real estate personally, but Yvonne,
What?
I didn't like it. Yeah, I like digital markets instead, but it's so for me it's a new venture.
Sure.
I'm here to learn and
Okay.
see what we can do.
Well, I appreciate you having an open mind. Thank you so much. So obviously I'm passionate about real estate. I'm a self-proclaimed real estate nerd, and I firmly believe that real estate creates more millionaires than any other vehicle that you have. And my tagline is delivering joy and wealth through real estate. So your home is your happiest place on the earth, right? And it's also the biggest lever for amassing wealth. Sorry for the technical difficulties. So I'm gonna just kind of talk off the cuff because it's driving me crazy. So really, what is a dream team? So Dream Team is really the ecosystem and the people that you put around you, because nobody really succeeds alone. As you know, any realtor in the room, can you do it alone? Absolutely not, right? Every single real estate transaction takes a number of specialists in different niches, and a lot of people working in synchronization to come together to get you to the finish line. Partners are going to include, I would say, direct people like your attorneys, your title companies, and then also indirect, all the way to contractors or marketers, stagers, all that good stuff. And you'll need all of those folks to really kind of come together. And I think where a lot of people struggle is they may find a deal, but they don't know enough to realize the opportunity that they have in front of them, or they don't know where to take the deal next. So inside your real estate dream team, you're going to have superstars, not just your realtor or whatnot, but it could be like Susan Lombardi, your short sale negotiator. Also could be asset managers up at banks. And how do you really identify superstars? Well, one thing is, I would say, like attracts like. I'm a big fan of reciprocity. So I think by pouring into other people, you give it away in slices and it comes back in loaves. So I apologize for the Babylon people because I used that line today during the office meeting. So I got caught, right? It's a big one, right? So part of what we're doing here, right, knows there isn't like a cover charge at the door. We're not after your money. Really, we want to pour into each one of you because it'll come back to us in loaves. And so being a superstar, as we said in the Babylon meeting again today, is, if you notice, there are givers, right? There are takers. There are also connectors. Listen for your connectors. Did you ever hear like, oh, go talk to that guy, he knows everybody, right? That's a natural connector. Those are the people that you want to listen for, be around, and converse with, right? Absolutely let them know, hey, I'm into buying property. If you hear anybody that might be in a tight spot, bring them back to me. Let the connectors know, because the busybodies, right? The Mrs. McGillicuddies, when we're doing our open house, what's the first question we ask when we're doing open house and somebody walks through the door?
What house in the neighborhood are you coming from?
That's right, because my nosy neighbors are the people that I want to. They're my superstars in the neighborhood. Mrs. McGillicuddy, she knows everybody in the neighborhood. I want to let her know, hey, if you know anybody that's looking to move or anybody that is in trouble in the neighborhood, is there a house on the block that needs a little bit of love? She'll go, oh yeah, the Smiths around the corner, their grass is right high, there's always stuff in the yard. That's the person I want to talk to. So think about our potential dream member, potential team members. We have our obvious ones, right? So we have attorneys, title companies, mortgage lenders, divorce attorneys, wholesalers, other investors, stagers, contractors. What I also want you to think about is your professionals, right? I do more business with Sean, and one thing that changed my mind, and he goes, I'm just a freaking painter. And I was like, well, that really kind of changed my mind, right? Like, really, at the core, yes, he is a painter. He does run a giant painting company, but he's in that space. Those are the folks that, like, part of my 6 relationships where I do most of my business, almost all of them are entrepreneurs, right? My largest client was a propane guy. I love him to death. Surprisingly, anybody that's behind the wheel of a truck, your oil deliveries, your gas deliveries, your post, be nice to your post person. Go, hey, if you go to a particular house and you can't jam one more letter in the mailbox, I want to know that address. Write that address down. If you do, I'll make it worth your while. They don't need to give me a name or anything like that. Those people know everything that's happening, right? I'm telling you, if somebody...
Is that legal?
What's that? I don't know. I don't really
know.
care.
It's a good one.
I'll tell you that, right? Also, because they'll get like, you ever see the front of it says final notice? They go, hey, Mr. or Mrs. Postperson, if you ever see a final notice, wink, write down that address or text me a picture of that envelope. I want to know who those people are. Where else can you find potential members for your dream team? right here in Grid. So if you look in the back, there's a nice little postcard. On the front, it looks beautiful. On the back, it is not centered. How dare you, Staples Riverhead? But if you take that piece, there's a whole network of people that Sean and I work with, we do business with, and are at the top of their game across multiple niches. Obviously, Dan is in there, and we're going to talk about that structure that Sean and I and Dan are working on to increase our portfolio. But go right there. I know we got a couple.
I'm going to grab a card and just read them off, because
Yeah,
our sponsors are
please.
on there. We didn't have them all show up today.
So I know the folks from Keller Williams Point North are from our agent Luna Bond recommended it, right? I'm sitting with Luna Bond, who does a lot of off-market investor type stuff. And she asked me like 3 questions in a row. I need this for a policy, I need this for flood insurance, I need this for an attorney. And I was like, grid. She goes, God damn it, it's all there, isn't it? I'm like, you're welcome. So use that system. Those people, they're not there because they pay to play. They're there because we do business with them, we like and trust them, and they're experts in that particular niche, because you can't do it alone. You can't do it alone. One of the most important parts of your real estate dream team, I gotta say, is your bird dogs. What's a bird dog? Anybody know what a bird dog is?
Fox.
It's a dog. It's a dog that tracks down game.
Perfect. You're absolutely right. And a bird dog in real estate are people that hunt down deals for you, right? So going back to Mrs. McGillicuddy with the long grass. When she tells you what that address is, that's a bird dog. My post office, my mail person is a bird dog. There are people that are actual professional bird dogs, and all they do is sniff out deals and make a connection, right? So what do you think as far as your service people or your tradespeople, where do you think the 2 best trades to look for or to network with for deals?
A mailman.
Well played. You're right. You heard Brian Jada talk about it, right?
I did.
You're absolutely right. So your landscapers and your painters. Right here, right? Just a freaking painter, right? Well, when someone's going to put their house on the market, right? Whether it's a disaster or not, what do they usually do? They clean up the yard. They call a landscaper, and they paint, right? Who's been into a house where they're painting over mold? Susan Mubart, right? And they're like, we're just going to clean it up and put it on the market. You're like, nah, right? So I've trained my painters. I go, hey, if you're coming in, you go, oh, what had you have me come over and give you this estimate today? Like, oh, we're thinking about putting the house on the market. Perfect. Where are you going? And they listen for that story, right? And I train them to take it retail, right? Oh, we're moving to Florida with the kids. Right? Oh, I have a great broker. His name is Josh. Or they go, oh, we're painting. We're just gonna, we want to move quickly. You listen for pain points or distress, and you go, you know what? Call Josh from the Grid Network. Would you be open to an offer straight away and close? Absolutely. Bird dogged it for me. If you really teach those people to open up that conversation, listen for a pain point, and then connect you, your business will explode. I promise. And you only have to manage a handful of relationships. Important is staying in touch with your network. You can do it a couple different ways. I gotta say the best way is by making a call, right? So one of the 4 legs of the table, Carlos, you heard that Brian Jada speech yet? Oh man,
We haven't gotten that far yet.
woo, okay.
You'll hear that a lot.
Yeah, so I love Brian Jada. So he looks at like keeping your realtor database alive, 4 legs of the table, which is networking, marketing, personal sphere of influence, and then he breaks down it into your professional sphere of influence. He says really work your professionals, right? He does the line on the Serengeti speech, realtors make the kill, just like a line on the Serengeti, the lions make the kill. Then who comes in? The hyenas, then the jackals, right? All the way down to the worms who eventually eat the body. Well, realtors, we're the lions on the Serengeti, and we make the kill. And on average, 60 different people will do business based off of our real estate transaction. That's why when the market was overheating, who did the federal government come after? Us, right? They wanted to slow down the transactions because we run the economy. So by being the lion, I want you to train everybody downstream from you to listen for business, right? Look for long grass. Look for somebody leaving. Mrs. McGillicuddy, who's been there forever, right? Like somebody who might just be in a bad spot. You go in to finish their heating system and they're, you know, pulling cash together to kind of pay you. Ask them what's next. Train them to listen for pain points and go, I think you should talk with my friend Josh. He's gonna be able to make a difference for you, right? Because it might be that they gotta go into assisted living and they're a couple of years past it. They just don't know it yet, right? What's the average age going into assisted living now? 80 something?
Oh, yeah, 75.
Unbelievable. And then the average stay is only 18 months. It's brutal. So, but every once in a while, you gotta check in. You gotta check in with your dream team, with your network, and you gotta ask them how they're doing, how have they been, and then reactivate their brain to be looking for a deal. Because people forget, right? I forgot once, it happens, so you need to be talking to them on a particular basis. Also, take your network, your top referral partners out, spend time with them in a day. I spend probably more time with Sean. I talk to him definitely more times in a day than I do my wife, I promise. But we're in lockstep, we're in sync, we know where everybody's going, and we're always out there looking for deals for one another, whether it's, you know, contracting, painting, or selling real estate, doing deals together. So stay in touch. Phone call is good, better, best, right? So text, email, putting them into your database is good. Better is a phone call, best is belly to belly, and reteaching them how to make a difference for you. One big thing, as your network grows, as we talked about, for every 20 people you have in realtors, for every 20 people you have in your database, you'll do one deal a year. The power of 20. Same deal in your networking database. For every 20 people that you have, one person, statistically about one person is gonna send you a deal if you touch them consistently. Probably the easiest piece, everybody that signed in here, you're gonna notice in 1 to 2 business days, depending on how tired I am, you're gonna get a little newsletter that's gonna recap what we talked about, and then you're gonna get a bunch of emails from me all the time. Don't unsubscribe. I watch every single one. I will come find you. But you wanna stay in communication with them because you gotta keep top of mind, right? We can only really keep so many people inside of our psyche, right? I want it for all of my network dream team. I want people to always be looking for deals for me, right? Josh, I may have a deal. I'm not really sure what I'm looking at. Can you come meet with me? That's really the point that I'm trying to get to. So your network or your database doesn't have to be really sexy. It can be as much as a Google spreadsheet. Scott Bennett, who is one of the top producers out here on the North Fork, one of my real estate heroes, does well over $1 million a year in gross commission income. He works off a Google spreadsheet. That's it. I'm like, Scott, what's your database? It's gotta be really sexy. He's like, a Google spreadsheet. That's it. I got 800 people on this spreadsheet and I call them consistently. Man, so if you're not making $1 million, it's because you're not making phone calls. That's it. If you wanna get really sexy, we'll send the slides out. You can get into like Trello or Copper, and there are CRMs specifically for investors. Yes, sir.
I'm so sorry, and I hate to do this.
No.
Can you please repeat that part about making phone calls one more time? If you're not making what?
As a team leader, if you're not making phone calls. We did the path to 250 in Babylon. How many people a day do you need to speak to make $250,000 a year as a realtor?
5.
4. They never listen to me. But we did whatever.
5, 5, 4, and 2.
5, 5, 4, 2. That's right. Yeah. 5, 5, 4, 2. I'm a Tom Ferry coach. Tom Ferry coaching customer. My coach said, if you're not making the money that you want to make, it's 5, 5, 4, 2. You got to talk to 5 new people a day, 5 familiar people a day, 4 follow-up calls, 2 short form videos. That's great, right? That's a big, heavy hit. But so we did the math. All the money is in the math. I hate to say the real estate. I was a terrible math student growing up, but all the money is in the math. And if we broke it down, I'm going to come to Smithtown. I spoke with Katie, and we're going to come talk about create the 7 layers of agent wealth. I'll go over the pathway to 250 with you. But biggest thing is consistently communicate with your database, stay top of mind with them, and let them know you're still buying. there's another Dream Team 2.0, which is affiliate relationships. Anybody have any affiliate relationships here? No big? Okay. So if you ever see like people on TikTok or Instagram and they're like, oh my God, I got this new mascara and I love it so much. That's an affiliate agreement. They're getting paid on that. So back in, you can create affiliate agreements with your downstream vendors where they pay you for using them or sending money, sending business their way. We're going to go into that later on this year on how to maximize your relationships and create affiliate agreements. So stay with us on that one. All right. Anybody have any questions about what we went over so far? Yes, sir.
Could you just give me the 4 legs?
4 legs of the table.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So it is networking, prospecting, buying the business, and then we take the 4th leg of the table, we break it in half, which is a professional sphere of influence, and then your sphere of influence. Because you really have 2, right? Sphere of influence is like your friends, family, people that you like, and I promise, you better tell everybody in your family, everybody meet. I don't care if you have a rental property, if you've ever flipped a property, I don't give a shit. If you're in this room, you are a real estate investor. Hi, my name is Josh. I'm a broker for Douglas Elliman. I'm also a real estate investor. Do you have any deals for me? Called Scott Bennett one day to ask him a question. He goes, hey Josh, nice to talk to you. You sending me a referral? I was like, you bitch, that's why you're making $1 million. You gotta ask about business, right? It's like, I was like, no, I'm not. But then I felt like I needed to send him something. I'm like, you're kidding me. So you have to teach people to be on the lookout for business, right? It took me about 5 years, but I really realized I had trained my family when my dad called me for advice. He goes, Josh, I think I found a deal. I'm going to flip this house in Virginia. I was like, holy shit. I finally told him 1,000,000 times that I was a real estate investor and I'm good at real estate. It only took me 5 years for him to call me for his advice. But he's flipped 7 houses so far and he's done really well for himself. Right? It's crazy. He hasn't brought me in on any of the deals yet.
Excuse me, Josh, can I ask? So,
No.
just to get an overview, you're doing traditional real estate, bringing
Yes.
a house to market with a motivated seller.
Yeah.
But you're also going off market to investors. What is that deciding factor? Where is it the motivation of the seller of bringing it to retail or bringing it off market?
It's a really astute question, and thank you. Yes, it always is. So I go into every listing appointment, I say every home seller I meet with, as I'm like walking up to the door, I'm looking at this house in 3 different ways. I go, do I want to buy it? Do I want to wholesale it? Or do I want to list it, right? And I look at it either way. Like a really, really nice house, that's like everything's like, it's probably going to go retail, right? Maybe I'll wholesale it, but I don't really want to buy it because there's no value add for me in that, right? But really, yes, the motivation for the seller. I got my house. I have a super sweet 1,000 square foot hip-proof ranch right here in Riverhead. You're welcome. And so I got that. I got a referral from a person. I sold their house. Like, you got to speak with Janet. I can't remember her name. God, I'm going to hell. Janet. She's got a house. It's tenant occupied. She lives in Florida. She wants to sell it right away. I met with it was Judy. Sorry, I met with Judy in my office, and we're looking at the house. And I give her a price. I go, it's I think you should probably list it at $350. It was in December or August of 21. I go, if you list it at $350, it'll probably go up to $385. She was like, okay, that sounds great. She signed it right there. I called Sean. God bless Sean. I was like, Sean, I got a deal. We got to buy this house. Like, I want to buy this house. We got to flip it. And Sean was like, aren't you looking for a house? I go, yeah. He goes, why don't you buy it? I'm like, that's a good point. I was like, but that's weird. I was like, what do I do? I was so scared because it was all about me and I was belly to belly. He goes, just ask the fucking lady if she'll sell it to you. And I was like, all right. Like,
He was so nervous. He didn't know how to
nervous.
like separate that. Like, I'm
break-
supposed to be a realtor, but I want to buy it. I'm like, just ask her if she'll sell it to you.
And
And
I
like,
did.
she was great.
She was great. I said,
Yeah.
Judy.
And you paid 4 1/4, right?
Yeah, right. Well, look, so this is where, because it was weird, right? Because as a realtor, this is where wearing the 2 hats can sometimes get blurred. Because as a realtor, nobody out in the real world knows what the fucking fiduciary is. Anybody know what a fiduciary is? I hate that. Right. Go ahead.
The 6 months.
What's that?
Reasonable care
Those are your. Oh,
is
yep.
one of them.
Mhm.
There's 6, which I
Right.
can tell you the rest of my head.
It's okay. So, like,
Obedience,
right, yeah.
confidentiality.
Right. Those are your fiduciary duties, right?
Accountability.
So a fiduciary is somebody who's looking out for another person's interests, right? So at that, I had signed this listing agreement, which made me her fiduciary. And then I was like, okay, how do I buy this house and then not violate my fiduciary duties? So it was really simple. I said, Judy, would you consider selling this house to me and my family? She goes, oh yeah, that's great. What are you gonna do with the tenant? I said, I'll get the tenant out. I'll negotiate something with the tenant. I'll handle the whole thing. She goes, you do that? I'm like, yeah. And she goes, well, how much would you pay? I go, I paid the $350 for it. There's no broker fee. Like, Douglas Elliman, don't look. I will tear up this listing agreement. I'll just buy this house directly from you. I said, if you put it on the open market, you can probably get more money. We can do that. She was like, nah, no, I'll sell it to you. $350 is fair. I was like, oh shit, that happened. And that was it, right? So how I honored my fiduciary duties, and I became kind of an investor because I bought it a little bit below market value, was just by being transparent, man. So you just kind of tell them what's there, right? But now when I go into that listing appointment, if I walk in and it's like, it's a wreck, I listen to what that seller wants to achieve, because it's only an investment if they're willing to trade equity for convenience or speed. That's it, right? Remember the first meeting we talked about, anybody ever trade in there? We talked about the water bottle. We also talked about trading in your car. Whoever traded in a car? Everybody in the room, right? Well, you wholesaled that car. You traded in, you gave up equity in that vehicle to just walk in, have the guy walk around your car and give you a number, right? As opposed to putting it on Facebook Marketplace. So that's what Judy Johnson did not want to do with my house. She didn't want to put it on Facebook Marketplace and deal with the tenant, and the tenant get pissed that there's 1,000 showings, and then they go, I'm not leaving. So she goes, fine, I'll sell it to you, Josh, and it's your problem. I was like, great. And we made a deal and everything worked out well. But she traded a little bit of equity for convenience and comfort, right? So that was really long answer?
No, it kind of ties in because as you're speaking of fiduciary duties, traditional real estate kind of never went on the investing side. It was more of a wholesaling, and now it's kind of merging the two, you know.
To a certain extent, and you can go retail and then take it the other way, because sometimes, like Sue knows, Sue deals with a lot of people that are in distress, right? So sometimes, if you can take it super retail right now, it's a really high market. Sometimes people have come from underwater and all the way up into they're black, where they actually have equity. Where it gets sticky is when there isn't enough equity to pay the broker. That's when it gets weird, right? So that's when you got to take it like short sale. So sometimes you can go retail, give it hell, because right now the market is still climbing. Do we agree? That's freaking nuts, right? Like October last year, like we were all ready to start our pistol because nobody had a closing, right? Like nothing was moving. And now 5 months later, like, should I use an escalation clause? What the hell is happening in the market, right? Like, there's 30 people at an open house. I'm like, you guys know, like, rates are 6.5, right? What the hell is going on? But, so you can start retail, and then sometimes it goes investor route if we just can't make it work, all right? So, there's a benefit to either one. You missed the first meeting, but I talked about my greatest failure in the world, which is 179 Church Street in Freeport. I bought that bad boy right before the market tanked. Literally, I closed in October 2007. The next month, like the market dropped out. And that was a really dark time. I just really didn't know where to go. I would have gladly taken an investor who could have given me space. I'd have traded whatever. I'd have probably done some dirty things to get out of that house. let me tell you. So, anybody else have any other questions? No, perfect. So we're gonna go over our joint venture. Once I get this MFN TV back up, I'm gonna pull Dan up here and talk about it. So we did a little joint venture here, and Sean and I have had multiple structures of investing, right? Like different things that we were gonna do. And one thing that we ran into was, at first we were trying to find all cash investors, right? And I'm gonna blow your mind and tell you that there's not a shit ton of people going around here with like $500,000, right? So we were trying to find that like needle in the haystack, and we had a really, really good structure, but it's really hard to just kind of come across a lot of people that have a lot of money that want to give it all to us. Like, even though I'm super handsome and very trustworthy, believe it or not, people didn't want to dedicate all that money to us. So we kind of, at the end of the first grid meeting, like the day prior, I was in the shower thinking about real estate because I'm a fucking psycho, and I was like, hey man, what if we use this this non-traditional type of mortgage and a cash investor on a smaller scale to do a joint venture? So what we actually created was a joint venture that included none of my and Sean's capital, but that gave us access to equity, only limited by the number of deals that we could find and small-time cash investors that we could collect. That's crazy, right? Who wants free equity? Everybody, right? Nobody's hand went up? How dare you? Who wants free equity? Everybody did. Okay, you're welcome.
Sweat equity.
Nah, I don't want to sweat. I don't sweat attractively.
You put some sweat into it. You dig grind.
Yeah, where I'm gonna sweat is right here under this effing light, so I can blind you guys with my bald head. So what we did, Dan introduced me to, well, reintroduced me, brought to the top of mind, a DSCR loan. Does anybody know what a DSCR loan is?
Investment loan. 20% down, they cover the whole thing as long as the rent covers the mortgage payment.
You're correct. It's called, it's an acronym for Debt Service Coverage Ratio. So that's a loan where the bank is really only looking at the asset itself and the income generated from it, right? So it's an investor loan. They don't necessarily care too much about me. And so as long as you put 25% down, right? We could do 20 or 25, right?
On a purchase, you can do it's dependent on credit score, but yes, you can do as little as 20%. Some 15's gone away, but
okay.
More. 20%.
So I think 25% was a slightly better rate, right?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So
sorry, the glare is like
off my
making
head.
Your eyes black,
Oh.
so I can't see when you're looking at me.
Oh, okay. Does that help?
No, it's worse.
Fuck. All right.
So take the hat back off.
Yeah, take the hat back off. So 25% down. We picked 25% down because it gave us a little bit better interest rate and a little bit more cash flow. So what we did is we find somebody who's got about $75,000 to invest. And it could even be two people that got like 35, right? But one person that's got 75,000. And we do a joint venture. They bring the down payment plus the closing costs to the deal. Sean and I bring the 75% debt service coverage ratio to the deal. Guess what we're really good at? I'm really good at finding tenants and putting them through on-site because it's required under Douglas Elliman rules, right? So we vet the tenant, right? We collect the money every single month, and the person who gave us the cash, they get a 10% return on their money, front-loaded and 100% passive. They also get to receive 25% of the equity as the property appreciates. So what are the three levers of real estate? Why is real estate so sexy? It does three things for us. Gives us cash flow, gives us appreciation, goes up in value, and then it also gives us the tax incentive of depreciation. So depreciation is your friend. How many realtors in here paid more money in taxes last year than they wanted to? I know you did. We talked about it deeply. Me too. And one of the smartest attorneys I ever met was like, hey, Josh, did you pay a lot of money back to the government last year? I'm like, I did. He goes, that's your freaking fault. I'm like, oh shit, what are you talking about? He goes, how much rental property do you own? I go, none. He goes, well, that's your penalty for not owning real estate. Depreciation is your friend.
The losing leader.
That's right. I was like, oh shit. So the great part about this is smaller investors can come into the deal. They can partner with people who are adept at identifying properties that have good cash flow, good tenants, and they don't do anything. They just get a check every quarter on the quarter. So putting the pieces is gonna require a lot of stuff, right? What are your questions so far? What are your concerns? If I came to you and I was like, hey, do you wanna be an investor? You wanna do a joint venture? Liz, you wanna do a joint venture with me? Cool, all right. What are your concerns? So you're gonna give me $75,000, I'm gonna go to the bank for the rest, I'm gonna give you a 10% return. That's not bad, right? $7,500 a year, guess what you're doing? Chilling, making sure the couch don't move. You're not doing anything, right? So what are your questions? What are your concerns?
I would like to know how it works from beginning to end, so I can't see that, so tell me everything.
Perfect, right? What other questions? I'm looking for another question. How do I get out of the deal? Right? How do I get my money back? Right? Ooh, exactly. Exit strategy. Well, how do I know my money is protected? Right? God, oh, perfect. Well, when do I get my money? When does all that stuff happen? So all of that comes in the package that we put together through our grid partners, because I need a whole bunch of stuff. So right here at the end of the first meeting, I'm like, Sean, this was my idea. Dan, can we do it? He goes, yes, but we need a couple other things. He goes, you got to get me an right? I can only lend to an LLC. So I need an attorney who's going to write the LLC.
I'm sorry, say that again, the investor can only lend to an LLC?
I can only lend to an LLC.
That's correct. So he's like.
Do we want to explain why? So the reason that is when he's lending to an LLC, it's a commercial type loan, and if someone did stop paying the bills, they're going to take that property back. But in that LLC that's formed, that there's wording in there that protects the investor.
That's correct.
And protects them how? They're not gonna get.
Let's just say
So
me and Josh are your partner, right?
Right.
We're investing for you, and we just fall off the face of the earth. There's a time limit on us not responding that we forfeit the LLC back to you, and then you control the asset 100%. So that gives you control of the mortgage and the asset without having to use us as interfering with your asset or your investment.
Comes down to a couple different things too. Also your licensing.
Yeah, so there's, want me to come up?
Yeah, man, come on up.
Yeah, come on, Dan, tell us.
Yeah, woo, 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 woo.
I can't,
No autograph.
I ate too much on my cruise.
Okay, no autographs, please.
So there's a few different things, right? Like, so everyone knows you can do a DSCR loan in your personal name, right? We lend to entities because we're not governed by things like RESPA, HMDA. It's like Sean said, it's a business. It's business to business transaction, right? So that's the main thing. If there was an accountant and an attorney in the room, I don't think there is, right?
Not today.
Not today.
So if there
We can
was,
say whatever
they
we
could they could explain to you the myriad of different reasons on a more granular level from a financial, tax advantage, and legal perspective why an investment property should be in an LLC, right? So maybe, you know, in high school, I once learned this in criminal justice, I think it was. Some guy once broke into a house, tripped on a roller skate while committing the robbery or burglary, whatever it's considered, and sued the homeowner and won, right? So that's part of the reason. But for us in Sula, we only do business to business finance. So it's my business to your business. It could be an S Corp, C Corp, LP, LLC, sole proprietorship, but I will not lend to you personally. Although your credit will personally guarantee the loan. Does that make a little bit more sense?
Does the debt count against you personally, or?
It does not report, right? So the debt does not report. But again, if there was an accountant in the room, you have, so getting a mortgage could be cumbersome, right? The better the loan officer, I truly feel, the better the process is, right? Because they kind of know what tripwires they can anticipate things that may come up, right? But if you are holding properties, right, you're gonna have on your tax return a Schedule E, right? That Schedule E is gonna list Wally Enterprises, Wally Real Estate, you know, Wally Formulas, whatever it is, right? All these entities that own these properties, so 123 Main Street, 456 Main Street, right? You'll have a separate return for that. So when you're applying for a mortgage, if you're asking me about on your primary or something that you're going to take personally, right? That now is an income, right? Or you hope it's an income. It could be a loss depending on how you formulate those business returns. But the mortgage will not, with a hard money loan or private money, as I call it, because I call it easy money, right? It will not report on your credit report. But if you were to go out and buy a house for $1 million and now you're doing a regular conventional mortgage, right? You have to demonstrate your ability to repay, so your ATR. So now you're going to provide all these, tax documents, and the underwriter's going to say, well, here's your Schedule E. I need all the business, K1s and returns for these entities.
Right, but they don't look at the debt and
So,
factors.
so what is the debt
revenue.
service? Right. So, say again.
Sometimes they only take 70% of the revenue from the rent to offset the debt, so you could still be in like the negative in terms of.
So you have numbers like 1.2.
You mean when you're doing a regular mortgage?
No, buying, because you have an investment property, if you go to buy another investment property, they're still gonna look at your obligation and maybe only take 70% of the revenue that's coming in.
No. So we'll take up.
So does this
on a-
debt not count against you?
So, okay, I understand now. I'm sorry. So
Wow.
when
Yeah,
there's
okay.
two types of DSCR loans, right? Short-term rentals and long-term rentals. Okay. For all intents and purposes, they're like Sean was just about to say. There's a 1.1 ratio, 1 ratio, 1.2, right? The higher the debt service, the better, right? The more cash flow, the better the interest rate will be. The higher the loan to value could be, things like that. And then there's also, you could even go negative debt service. So your payment could be $3,000, but it only will rent for $2,000, right? But with that comes added risk, so your interest rate will be affected, right? And then you have short-term rental. Short-term rental is where they'll more take a percentage from like AirDNA. Has anyone ever heard of AirDNA? Right, so AirDNA is a website that'll tell you what a property will rent for. So that's where they'll say, okay, it'll do 100,000 gross, but it's only going to be occupied for this amount during the year, so that's the percentage that we'll take, right? But long-term rental, for all intents and purposes, without getting into the specific math, if your mortgage payment, or let me rephrase that, if your housing payment, right, your housing payment. So what's the difference between a mortgage payment and a housing payment?
No idea.
Okay. Your mortgage payment is just your principal and interest, right? Your housing payment is principal, interest, taxes, insurance. There is no mortgage insurance in this world, but would be, and any HOA fees, right? So anything like that. So if your housing payment is $3,000 a month, and you have a lease for $3,000 a month, and if it's a purchase, if it's not a lease yet, right? Or the appraiser says on a 1007 rent schedule, it's gonna rent for $3,000 a month, that's how we qualify it, right? So there's no tax returns, there's no W-2s. We just need to know that you have the money to get to a closing table, the credit, right, to show that you're credit worthy to obtain these kind of loans. And then really the property is what is demonstrated in the ATR, the ability to repay, the income on the property, right?
So this is a good method for people doing BRRRR too. If you're doing BRRRR for yourself, like you will need the DSCR loan to get out of your initial investment. So you started hard money, built the equity, and then you want to keep it, rent it, and then take that equity to go somewhere else. If you found the right deal, if you can cash out with the DSCR?
Correct. Obviously, so purchase, you'll get the highest loan to value, right? Cash out, you'll get the lowest loan to value. But you can still get, so everyone knows what BRRRR is, right? Mm-hmm. Okay.
No.
So buy, rehab, rent, refi, repeat. That's BRRRR, right? So I come in at the refi part, right? Or
the idea with that whole method is you have $50,000 in capital. You use that as a down payment on a house that needs some help, but you're getting it as a good deal. Take your $50,000, you go into contract. You work with Dan for a hard money loan. You renovate that property. It builds equity when you did it. You get it rented. You go back to Dan, have it reappraised. It's going to appraise for more than you invested into it. You get your money, your $50,000 back. You just keep going, and you keep reusing that fund. If you dump your equity in a house, you need to now start over and start making taxable money that it takes time to get that capital back. So if you find the right deal, you can just keep going.
So I think this joint venture strategy was,
I'm sorry.
so that's okay, Dan threw out a lot of acronyms and really packed a lot in there. So he really did, because there was,
I have one more
Go.
question. You know how you said you found like bird dogs?
yeah,
What if you found a buyer that had income and like no debt, but not enough income to qualify? And then you sold them the house and maybe you take in the commission and the equity in the deal, and they do max financing and they get like a first-time home buyer rate, which would be lower than I'm assuming the DSCR. And then after they close, can you go into an LLC with that end user buyer?
So it's against the law to rent that house if it's a first-time home buyer. That's
What
the
if it's
law.
multifamily?
That's
Okay, so this gets very this gets very interesting, right? I had this fight once a week on Facebook, right? Once a week, right? So Joey Bacigalupi is going to buy a house. Well, you have Mr. McGillicuddy, and I have Joey Bacigalupi.
yeah, Mr. McGillicuddy, Mrs. McGillicuddy. Yeah.
Right. So someone's going to buy a house, right? It's called mortgage fraud, right?
I wasn't sure.
So more specifically, it's called occupancy fraud. There's actually reverse occupancy fraud too, right? So someone's trying to, they call it house hacking, right? That's what they call it. Someone's trying to house hack, they're trying to start their investment portfolio, and every 19 out of 20 people that comment on these threads on Facebook will tell you use an FHA loan to buy an investment property. You can't do an FHA loan on an investment property, right? You have to live there. So
What if they do?
if they do live there, it has to be a multifamily, right? So it has to be a 2, 3, or 4 family, right? You can live there, but I'm just giving everyone some food for thought, right? If you have no intention of living there and you do this, I'm pretty sure when I studied for my test, what it said was the fine is up to $1 million and 30 years in prison, right? For mortgage fraud, and especially occupancy fraud, right? So it's really a gray line. There is, but additionally, so that's what you would do if you were buying a multifamily, okay? You would actually go ahead and live in one unit, and if that's the truth, that's 100% okay, right? And then you rent out the rest of them. But I don't think that's what anyone in this group is doing, right? I mean, I don't know.
No. So you can house hack. Some of those people that are explaining that. If there's people here and you don't own a home, your first home, buy it at a good deal. Stay in it for 2 years. Then rent it. At 2 years,
Correct.
You're allowed to now rent that property and go buy another FHA primary use home. I have a friend who's a police officer. I think he's on his 6th home. And he's done that each time.
Do you need a certain
And
percentage
he can
of equity in the first
continually
home?
move in 2 years and buy more houses
Say again?
at that great low rate.
In that scenario, after 2 years, can you still buy a second home? You need a certain percentage of equity.
So
No.
you can have you can have your primary, and then you can have a summer home.
Okay.
That
Not
can't be a
FHA.
rental.
Yeah.
So like I own my primary. I have a second home. That was purchased with a low interest rate through an FHA loan, and then I have investment homes, and they're through investment mortgages, and you get treated differently on your interest rate and how they fund that. So eventually, if you keep trying to go FHA, it becomes very cumbersome. The amount of income you have to have, all the documentation and cash on hand will become so cumbersome, you just want to deal with them. It's worth the extra 1% to not have to tie up
What?
$250,000 in the bank account to close on
A
another
first-time
mortgage.
buyer is considered every 3 years. If you own property in the last 3 years, then you're not considered first-time. But guys, there's no advantage to first-time home buyership. But that's totally way off topic, right? So the difference is that people are using this DSCR loan because just like anything else, it's the speed and convenience thing all over again, right? These things get done fast, and for you to buy an investment property these days would cost you actually more than to do a DSCR loan because of the loan level price adjustments that the agencies have made on those particular programs. That aside, these things, they're easy to do. Like the property is the main focal point for how we're going to qualify the deal, right? You can't have a 500 credit score and get a DSCR loan, right? You can't have a bankruptcy in the last 3 years and get a DSCR loan. But you can't get any loan virtually, right, with those type of criteria.
They also do look for experience as well.
Experience
So,
is a huge thing, yes.
I have that. I can get these loans. If you're eventually looking to have these loans, you should partner with someone who already is doing these type of deals, and then that can be you building up a credit to eventually take these loans from Dan. So if you went to Dan and you said you never did this before, but you want this loan, odds are you're not going to get it.
No, you can. You can absolutely get the loan. You could be a first timer and get these first time, and you have to own a primary, right? That's like the one caveat. In most, very few exceptions, but you have to own a primary. As long as it's legitimately an investment product, but you'll get a better interest rate if you're an investor with 10 to 50 of these than you will, this being your first one.
What's the difference in the interest rates?
I mean, it varies. So the interest rate discussion is, I'm trying to keep this super high level, but these interest rates are derived just like every bank that you could think of, retail bank off the top of your head has a capital markets team, right? Those capital markets people decide, okay, this is the rate today and this is what it'll cost, or this is what we'll give back to the customer at rate X. We have the same thing, right? There's a myriad of different, so it's credit score, property type, property location, what is the debt service? Is it negative debt service? Is it short-term rental? Is it positive debt service? Is it 1 to 1, 1 to 1.1, 1 to 1.2, greater than 1 to 1.25, right? So there's a million, is it rural? Is it not rural? There's a lot of different, you really can't get these on rural properties. So just keep that in mind.
But if you had two scenarios both equal, what is somebody first time new with DSCR versus somebody that's done 5 to 10?
Could be anywhere from 10 to 50 basis points. It's hard to say.
And that range is what?
Because
7 to 9?
No, it's 10 to 50 basis points.
So the total range of the rates.
Oh.
yeah, they're like high 7s to, it depends. If you can start getting 680 credit score and short-term rental that doesn't debt service and
Yeah, they can be personal, and if you really are interested in it, I think Dan's trying to just protect somebody or saying, what's your credit score? Call Dan, he'll get you these rates. He just can't spit a rate out that's broad, because then you're going to tell him, you said this, and then he has to tell you, well,
you got a 585, man.
you don't own this, you don't make any money, you got no experience, you get this rate. So definitely call him, he will help you get there.
What's the turnaround time of those things?
depends on you, right? If you get me what I asked for, we could do it as little as 10 to 15 business days, right? But average loan, closes in 30 days.
So the DSCR, you have the LLC or corporation or whatever it is, but the underlying guarantors, or all you need is their prep, you don't need all the financial documentation and everything?
Correct. It's just assets that you have the money for either the down payment, or if you're reducing your principal balance, you're going to pay the closing costs on a refi, or there is nothing out of your pocket. But usually these things come with a 3 to 6 month reserve requirement, right? So again, based on compensating factors, different lenders will offer different things. We want to see that you have, in case of a rainy day, you have 3 to 6 months worth of your housing payment in the PITI, plus HOA if it's a condo, in the bank, right? So PITI is principal, interest, taxes, and insurance, for those of you wondering what PITI is. Yes?
Is this a New York thing? If you have
No.
an LLC, so you can have an LLC in New York and buy real estate in
Correct.
Florida or California?
Yep.
Do you have to be licensed in it, or you can do it anyway?
I'm sorry,
You
what?
have to have any type of license anywhere?
Me personally? No, so that's the thing, right?
Unregulated money.
So as a mortgage broker, right, for your traditional Mrs. McGillicuddy, I can't even say it, see? You need to have an NMLS, right? So you need to be licensed. This is business to business finance. Technically, I'm not lending to you. I'm lending to the business. But you're PG in it.
Personally
guaranteed it.
Parental guidance.
Dan, can I ask, is that loan just for a hard asset, or can it be for a land deal as well?
No, you can't do this on land.
Okay.
Quite honestly, guys, I've been doing this a long time. I don't know anyone that finances land. I think you have to go to Sean and ask him for one of his connections to finance land.
So that's something else too. Like Dan is a money lender. you do need to find your whale, someone who has a lot of cash and wants to invest in another scenario. I have a few different people that I work with that way. They help me buy raw land, develop raw land, and then eventually I can go to Dan and take that asset and turn it back over. But that is important, and that's you meeting people, talking to people, explaining what you do, and you'll be surprised that, like, I was setting up a sign out there earlier, half an hour before the meeting. There's a guy there with a can of stain in the shelf, and he goes, "What are you doing?" I'm like, "Oh, we have an investment group." He's like, "I'm an accredited investor." He's like, "I just do this because I'm bored." He's like, "I own a lot of properties here, a lot of properties here. I'd be interested in talking to you." So you'd be surprised if you can talk, meet people. Who would have known the guy out there staying in the front of the cabinet is possibly a cash investor?
Just a stupid painter.
Yeah,
just another dumb painter.
We were just talking to a landscaper. He does the neighbors just yesterday.
Yeah.
And he's like, "Oh, you know, I own an Airbnb in Costa Rica. You know, guys, check it out." And he's like, "I own 14 rentals in Binghamton and blah." And he's a landscaper.
Yeah, he just ran in the landscape. You think he's like nobody. He's got these properties everywhere. He just bought the, you know.
I ran into a
So
gentleman.
the way I actually met one of my investors, I got called, I got referred to do a renovation on a piece of property, met the guy, went through it with him, seemed nice, gave him a proposal, and he's like, "Oh, you meet me this week?" I'm like, I'm going fishing. And he's like, "Oh, what do you, I got a boat." He's like, "Oh, I used to sail." Started talking, he wanted to come fishing, became kind of friendly. "What are you doing?" He's retiring, he's downsizing. "What am I doing?" "I'm doing some of this." "Would you want to do something together?" He brought that to me. I didn't ask him for his money, he presented it. That's a big deal too. You don't want to be asking people for their money. You show them what you're doing, explain what you're doing well, show that you're professional. People with money are looking for us. There's not enough of us. So there's a lot of wealthy people out there that are looking for someone they can entrust, and they just want to be in Marco Island or in Palm Beach. Well, we're up here grinding. That's what they want. And there's not enough trustworthy people around that they can count on. So they need us.
So I think the way I do this loan here, and I tested it on my mom. I love my mom. She's always been wanting to get into real estate forever. She goes, "But I don't have hundreds of thousands of dollars." So I was like, "Ma, would you, I'm gonna pitch this to somebody. Tell me how you think." I said, "You're gonna come to the table with $75,000, which is 25% of this asset. I'm gonna take a loan for the other 75%. I'm gonna collect the rents, all this good stuff. I'm gonna send you about $700 a month. Would you take that?" She goes, Yeah, I'd take that. I was like, she goes, "What do I gotta do?" I'm like, "Nothing. I handle the asset. I just send you money every quarter." I would do that. I was like, "Okay, great." If you are talking to people in that realm, go, "Hey, I find properties, I'm into the deal for 75%. I'm gonna give you a 10% return. You're not gonna really do anything. You can be as involved as you want or as passive as you want. If that's something you'd be interested in." You'd be surprised at how many people go, "10% return?" Like, where else are you getting 10% return backed by real estate, getting depreciation and appreciation? Fucking nowhere. So the other part is being able to talk through it and put it all together. And they go, "Well, how do I do that?" You go, "Oh, I got the attorney who's going to do the LLC and the operating of the agreement. I have the hard money guy." You can speak to the whole thing. We do it all the time. I'm part of this investment group called the Grid Network. So whenever you're interested, we can talk. We'll meet with the attorneys. We'll go over it. Does that sound good? They're like, "I'm in," right? You'd be surprised. I was showing a piece of property. The guy goes, "Man, I got a bathtub full of cash." I'm like, "What?" He goes, "I got a rental property. The guy pays me in cash every month. I just throw the envelope in my bathtub." I'm like, "What?" He goes, "Can you invest that?" I'm like, "Yeah, let's do it." He's like, "Oh man, if you could solve my bathtub problem, you'd be my hero." I'm like, it's like first world problems. You'd be surprised. That's a problem that some people have. I don't have that. We're on our way, but the point is, you can access hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of equity over time, plus tax advantages and appreciation advantages, by understanding a non-traditional framework and then also having the players to put it all together. So if you come across that, my invitation to you guys if you're out there going around and you're listening to people go, I always wanted to get, what do you do? Oh, I'm a realtor. They always go, always wanted to get in real estate. I love houses. I go, do you love talking to 4 people a day? They're like, not really. Like, no, it's probably not for you. Would you ever talk about investing? Yes, I love HGTV. Okay, great, right? As everybody loves HGTV. But I go, look, I know that's not reality, right? It's reality TV, it's false reality, but I do have a structure where we could do a joint venture and I can give you about a 10% return with not much effort on your side. Is that something you'd be interested in talking about? They go, yep, bring them here. We'll help you structure it and put it together. Right? That's going to make a difference for your life. I tell my son every day, I whisper in his ear, West Point, because there's no college fund. It just doesn't exist. But he's going to get one of these. Right? That's the goal. Is this year I'll do one joint venture, one for each of my kids, and that's their college fund. So I'm going to do nothing. I'm going to create their college fund out of thin air. It's free fucking money. It's free money. Who likes free money? Raise your hand. Every hand goes up. Use this. If you got a question, we'll help you close the deal.
How many have you guys done?
This one, we just created this last month, so we're on our
The
first.
terms are negotiable. You don't have to give them 10% return. You can lower the rate. Maybe give them
So
more
the whole thing
percentage
is, we
equity
want to
share.
give them more than that. Because if we give you more than that, you know what you're going to do when you're having a beer with your friend?
Yeah.
You're going to tell him how much money you're making. And then they're going to want to do
Well, you
it.
can
So
give
we
a
don't want to take
percentage
advantage of anybody.
equity
We
share.
want them to do well. And on that, we do well and we'll do more. So one thing in this business too, you just don't want to be greedy. You want to surround yourself with good people and you want to share what you're doing. Just like me and Josh are doing here today. And sharing goes way further. And doing the right thing for people, you'll do so much more business.
Give it away in
And believe it or
slices,
not-
and it comes back in loaves. That's right.
You know, believe it or not, I think the money is the
Dan.
you know, I think the money is the easy part, right? Like you could have the 75,000, get your 10% return, but you can't get that if you don't have Josh and Sean to bring you the deal, right? Everyone in here will tell you, at least this is my understanding, you know, I've always said the hardest part about this business always has been and always will be sourcing the deal, right? So having your bird dogs, finding the people. There's a lot of people that want to give Sean money to do. He has a track record of what he's done, right? He knows what he's doing. They can easily give them the money. You'll find them. I can give you the money. That'll be the easy part. You know, I think this stuff is, guys. It's not that hard to get a mortgage. It's not. You know, so we can. You know, they're assuming most of the risk. So you would be the capital partner, and then they do all the work.
I'm not after so much. That was the first question from the bathtub guy. And he goes, so you're gonna give me a 10% return, you're not making much money. I go, I'm not really after the cash flow, I'm after the equity over time. That's what I'm after, right? So even if I'm not making like anywhere, he gets all the cash flow out of it, but every month I do get cash flow, it's just in the form of equity. I'm making a few $100 a month. I'm also offsetting my 1099 income through my real estate sale. That's the big thing. It's not how much money you make, it's how much money you keep. Right? It's not how much money you make, it's how much money you keep. And as realtors, I said again, man, I'm not even gonna do grid anymore. I'm just gonna do my freaking office meeting twice. But most of America, how many here have a financial advisor? Raise your hand. Handful, small percentage, right? Maybe
the office meeting.
here is pretty good, right? More than the office meeting, right? So let's just say, I'll be aggressive, it's 25% of the population uses a financial advisor. It's not true. But, so 1 in 4 people use a financial advisor. That means 3 in 4 people are freaking winging it, right? They're winging it, right? But almost 100% of the population will come across a realtor in their lifetime. So it's up to us as realtors to be as educated as we can and then have a network of professionals who are licensed to manage those things. Send those people to the right spot. But you at least need to be familiar with the concepts. And when you can make a breakthrough for somebody and find either convenience, money, or savings for them, right? Make them smarter, make them money, or save them money. That's when they're gonna tell their friends, and you'll get repeat business. All right. So my top client, they sold a business, and they're like, we're just fucking blue collar people. what do we do with this money? They called me to the diner. I thought they were gonna fire me. And they were like, let's invest in a bunch of real estate. I was like, this is the best breakfast I ever had. Let's do it, right? They are 30% of my business, right? But I've made them millions of dollars over the last year through this education, through this kind of work, right? So that's the power that it can have. And so I give it away, right? Give it away in slices. It comes back to me in loaves, all right?
Hey Josh, so was
Yes,
that a subject to deal then?
No, good point. I love that you're on the subject two. Subject two is buying a property subject to an existing mortgage staying in place after the transfer of ownership. Why? Very abstract concept, very, very niche. It's been around for it's been around forever, only comes back when there's a big spread between an existing book of loans, because we got 2s and 3s floating out there. I'm selling a house right now, it's going under contract. Guy's got a 3.5, right? I mean, guy's gonna buy it in a 6. And he really wanted, I was trying to float that subject to, but it was a little bit more complex, and they're tough to get across when you're selling retail that way, because you got 2 brokers who are like, if you F this up and you kill my commission, I'm gonna murder you, right? So we just pay the 6.5, but they're there. So if you're listening to somebody, maybe Mrs. McGillicuddy, who's going into the assisted living, right? I found one in Amityville. She did a loan mod in 2012 to down to 3%. So she had nothing, 3% mortgage, and it was on a 40-year term. I'm telling you, the cash flow was up, right? So it was a little more than she could wrap her head around. You got to work it, but tangent. But no, subject to is leaving an existing loan in place. On the debt service coverage ratio, we're going and getting new money. We're just using the cash flow of the asset as the collateral for the loan.
So I'll add something else to that. So
No.
when you're buying an asset, if you're 100% cash in, your actual cap rate return is actually less if you don't finance it. So when you're leveraging the property with a bank like Insula at 6, 7, 8%, that they're gonna fund 75% of it, all of a sudden your cash return on your investment goes way up. So you can be, if it was a cash on cash return and you bought a property for $300,000, rented it out, you're lucky to get 9. If you use a bank to finance 75% of it, you can bring your return up to 15%. And that's what allows us to partner with people. So we've had investors.
For the depreciation, right?
No, it's even more of it, yeah.
Depreciation,
All of it.
Yeah.
And then, so we've had guys, why don't I just buy it cash? I'm like, I can get you 4 versus 1. And me giving you 4 properties at 25% ownership, it spreads out their liability. If you do have one not renting, you're still bringing in your return. And then they're growing that with more properties. So it, like leveraging your property with a bank makes sense.
Makes sense.
You know, a lot of people are like, oh, I want to pay my property off. I don't ever want to pay them off. I will just keep refinancing and putting them out there, owning more, as long as they debt service properly.
As long as they cash flow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What if we have a deadbeat tenant that's not paying the rent?
Ooh, that's where we gotta suck it up. So comes out of our arrear, right?
What was your question?
What if you have a deadbeat tenant? What if the tenant doesn't pay? That's where you haven't met my friend Vinny Boombots. Vinny Boombots comes by, has a quick conversation. No, so it does happen, and that's the risk that you take. So we try to just pull our portfolio large enough where we're going to borrow from Peter to pay Paul, and we really just try to vet the tenants best we possibly can. Good credit scores, 4 times debt multiplier, or we're doing programs.
Yeah. Most of the time, we're going to do a program. Section 8, 100% of the rent is paid by the government. And that person in New York, I think it's 7 to 10 years, they average stay in the same.
11 and a half.
11 and a half.
11 and a half.
So if you get the right person, bunch of young kids, they will be staying in that unit
forever
until their kids are in college.
But that's exactly what Sean was just saying, right? Like if let's say you have 4 properties, right? And they each positive cash flow $500 a month, and each of their payments are $2,000 a month, right? I don't think anyone in this room has $500 million. I have $500 million right now to give out. $500 million, right? So if you had $300,000 and you bought one property cash, now you're pigeonholed into that one property, right? Whereas if you broke it up and bought 4 properties at $75,000 a piece, now you have 4. If you're positive cash flow $500 a month on 4, right, and one person doesn't pay, which is a realistic proposition, right? Assuming you're not doing some kind of government program, your cash flow from those other 3 will virtually take you to the finish line for that 4th one, right?
We always try to allow for a vacancy rate, but I just wanted to make sure that there is some kind of.
That's what your question, when you're doing the regular mortgage, right, stuff, again, not to get too in the weeds, because there's some variation to this, but they'll account for a vacancy rate of 25% or an occupancy rate of 75%, right? If you have less, if you don't have the reserve requirement, it'll be 50%. But
So there's minimum, so with these type deals, there's usually a 5-year minimum, because when we're taking a loan, there's a 5-year minimum in the term of the loan as well. And if
that's a good point, right?
So that's in there too, so like in the LLC, in all that,
Operating agreement.
in the operating agreement explains all of that. And has anyone invested in a true REIT before or no? So that's basically what we're creating is a REIT, which is a real estate investment, and they have similar terms. So our eventual goal is to be able to have enough of these property that we can have a legitimate real estate REIT. That's the goal.
Fair enough? Okay. I have nothing else to present, but please, before you leave this room, meet 5 people that you don't know, grab their card, put them into your database, follow up them 40 times a year. Okay? All right. Thank you so much. Appreciate you coming.